Hi, and welcome to Venus Audio Reads. Today's story comes from my short story series called Very Short COVID Stories. I later changed it to Brooklyn with Love. What we experienced was more than just a pandemic. It was about humans in a time of crisis. I wanted to create stories of love and compassion while surrounded by fear. This is my love letter to Brooklyn and to the world. Enjoy. Mr. Murray by Venus Knight. On Saturday, Lance closed his laptop and breathed a sigh of relief. My quarterlies are finally done. The view outside his window said sunny and maybe a little chilly. He bunched up his lips and thought. The sunny aspect alone made him feel compelled to go out with his mask and gloves to enjoy a nice walk. Maybe a visit to Mr. Mellon's to pick up some fresh fruit and ice cream. His wife was lying in bed reading. "Babe, you want something from the store?" he yelled across the apartment hallway. When he heard the sound of "No" coming from his bedroom, he grabbed his jacket and headed out the door. The distant clicking sound of a door squeak made him look to his right. It was Mr. Murray again. "Always peeping out that damn door," Lance mumbled and smiled to himself. He approached the step that led to the lobby floor of his 4-story apartment building, but he stopped before hitting the next step. "I wonder how he's getting groceries, or if he's getting any at all." With the question in the back of his head, Lance shrugged his shoulders and continued down the stairs. His weather sense was correct. Sunny, but chilly. He zipped up his light brown jacket and gathered his shoulders to collect some body heat. The air seemed the same as before the world changed. Nothing different but the sight of masks and gloves covering faces and hands. Hauntings of discarded PPEs cluttered the sidewalks and garbage cans. The presence of people was evident, but silent. Not much to say while mouths and noses were unseen. Lance thought differently. It was a sense of fear more than the stifles of protected faces. At least, that's what made sense to him. He passed 3 supermarkets and a health food store just to get his favorite bunch of grapes from Mr. Mellon. "These look delicious," he said to himself as he held the bag up to his eyes for investigation. Juicy, not too sweet, and just the right size for savoring. It was the first prize he chose and placed in his recyclable tote. He ventured on, picking up other fruits and vegetables for his wife's favor. He knew she would complain if he didn't bring anything home for her, despite rejecting his offer. And last but not least, the dairy-free ice cream to share after dinner. Before joining the line, he stopped for a moment. Muddled in his thoughts, he turned around and grabbed a red basket and continued shopping. Lance arrived home. He walked up the stairs to his apartment and placed his groceries in front of his door. He removed his blue surgical gloves and laid them next to his groceries. He took his hand sanitizer and with 2 sprays, rubbed his hands together vigorously. He unlocked the door and went straight to his safety station, placing gloves and 2 surgical masks on a small trash can, then grabbing a container of wipes. He took off his mask, allowing it to hang from one ear. He left his apartment and picked up the extra bag of groceries and placed them in front of Mr. Murray's apartment door. He rang the bell twice, knocked twice, then took 3 steps back and waited. After hearing the clinks and clanks of locks unlocking, Mr. Murray opened his door just enough to see Lance standing a distance away. "What do you want?" he yelled through the door. Hi, Mr. Murray. I went out and got groceries. I thought I'd share some with you. Mr. Murray paused for a moment. I don't need any food. I bought some gloves, bleach wipes, and masks, too, Lance said before the door was slammed in his face. He wasn't surprised. Mr. Murray was a man with old ideals and was known to be unhappy with the changes in his neighborhood. But still disappointed, Lance decided he'd make soup with the extra groceries. He had to come up with a plan before his wife yelled at him for spending extra money during a pandemic for an unkind neighbor. He turned to walk away, then stopped. He had to make more of an effort. He knocked again while standing close to the door. Mr. Murray, please take the groceries. It's too much for me and my wife, and she killed me for buying extra food. A moment of nothing, then Lance heard rustling behind the door. He stepped back and waited it out, hoping Mr. Murray had changed his mind. Finally, the door opened slightly. Leave it there, I'll get it. Thank you, Mr. Murray. Lance was the grateful one. With a wide smile, he walked back to his apartment. He suddenly turned and yelled towards Mr. Murray's door. And please use the wipes to clean the groceries and wash the vegetables or fruits. And please wash your hands afterwards. He proceeded to pick up his groceries. Using the tissue he stashed in his pocket, he picked up the contaminated gloves off the floor and went into his apartment. Monday was a cloudy day. Lance's iPhone weather app said rain for the late afternoon and possible storms throughout the week. His wife, working on her computer, kissed her husband as he geared up to go out to the grocery store before the rain and before the crowds. His normal Monday run before his 10 a.m. workday. He grabbed his mask, 2 pairs of gloves, and his shopping cart and walked out of his apartment. Again, he thought about Mr. Murray and knocked on the door, then stepped back. Mr. Murray looked through the peephole. It's me, Mr. Murray, Lance from across the hall. I brought you groceries on Saturday. Mr. Murray opened his door slightly and said nothing. I'm going back to the grocery store. Do you need anything? No, Mr. Murray said. You sure? 'Cause we have some storms passing through and I said no! Mr. Murray slammed the door. Lance looked up at the ceiling and sighed out loud. He thought maybe he should mind his business and move on with his life. Mr. Murray has always been the stranger that lived across from him for 3.5 years and never bothered to smile, to speak, or use a kind word. His limited beliefs had isolated him from most of the tenants in the building. So why even try? But Lance had to. He walked slowly to the door and spoke to him in the kindest way he could. I know you haven't left the building in weeks. It's okay if you're afraid. I can help you. Lance moved his head back to hear a response. Nothing. Mr. Murray, I can pay for your groceries. It's not a big deal. And it's okay to let me help you. I know you probably don't like me, but you don't have to like me for me to help you. I promise I won't ask you for anything. He backed away from the door. Okay, old man, he mumbled to himself. Mr. Murray, I'm going to give you 1 minute to open this door, and then I'm out. Seconds later, Mr. Murray opened the door, this time wider. Can I go with you to pick out my own food? What am I supposed to do with a bunch of kale? His thick, furry, white eyebrows gathered in the middle of his wrinkled face. Lance smiled. Sure, we could walk 6 feet apart and everything. Mr. Murray took the elevator up as Lance walked the stairs and waited for him at his apartment door. The adventure to the grocery store and back had been quiet. Just a few exchanges of looks and nods. Lance separated the groceries and put them in front of Mr. Murray's door. Now, don't forget to wipe everything down and soak your fruits and vegetables. You can use the apple cider vinegar to soak them and use the sanitizer to wipe your milk and juice cartons. Mr. Murray was still silent. I go shopping every Monday and I pick up little things here and there on some Saturdays when the weather's nice. We could do this again if you like. Mr. Murray was still stale-faced. Okay then, this has been fun. Lance waved his hand and then pulled his cart to his door. Why you like this? Mr. Murray's voice traveled across the narrow hallway to Lance's ear. I was never kind to you. Lance gathered a smile. I don't know. It's easier for me this way, I guess. Mr. Murray nodded and picked up his bags. I'll see you next Monday, then, he said to Lance, then left him in the hallway to hear the slam of the door and the clicking of locks. Lance pushed his cart into his apartment and closed his door. He heard his wife yell, Did you remember my cookies? Yes, he shouted back. In his lonely apartment, Mr. Murray dropped his gloves in the smelly garbage filled with empty beans and dog food cans. I'll take the trash out later. Maybe clean up around here, he said as he glanced over the bag of groceries. He smiled as he thought about the small steak Lance had bought him. He hadn't had steak in a very long time. The end. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.